Today on Locked On Red Wings, a couple World Junior Championship updates, and then we're going to do player predictions for Pius Suter, Dominik Kubalik, and the ever-polarizing Filip Zadina.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I am a podcast producer of The Daily J, a podcast of WWJ News Radio 950. Well, Scotty is the host of Locked On Tigers as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And happy Friday, Scotty. Another week down.
How do you feel about Alavila getting fired?
I literally screamed, "Let's effing go" in my car when the news broke. I was so pumped. And I'm sure you are along the same vein. Today, as always, we're going to do player predictions, but we're going to do some World Junior Championship updates as Red Wings players and prospects are playing. Not a lot to update. It's just preliminary round going on right now. And, but, you know, some Red Wings did some things, got some points. We're going to cover it. Most unenthusiastic way I could have said that possible. But United States played, I believe it was Germany, back on Tuesday, and Red Savage got himself a goal. It was dirty, go to the net, kind of grind him goal. One of those goals where you say they don't ask how, they ask how many, because that's the kind of goal it was. The puck got into the goaltender's pads, and he just launched it home while he was falling to the ice. Got a goal, but this is a perfect opportunity to plug the fact that we interviewed Red Savage 2 weeks ago, so make sure you go listen to that. Carter Mazer,
good, man.
It was a good interview. He was a good listen.
He was a good interview too. I meant on the ice, but yeah, he was a great interview. He's a really cool guy.
Carter Mazer also received a assist in that game as well. You look at Latvia versus Finland. We're going down that right now. It doesn't look like Emil Viro got any points in that game. Sweden versus Switzerland probably is the biggest one for Detroit Red Wings fans, followed by Canada. Simon Edvinsson, he had 26 minutes of time on the ice, which is not surprising because you're looking at a guy who's borderline NHL ready. Some will argue is NHL ready. So, of course, they're going to play him as much as possible. He registered a primary assist. Theodor Niederbach also registered a primary assist in that one. And as well, got a game misconduct for hitting from behind against Team Switzerland. Not a great look for Niederbach, but I'm not going to look too far into it either, though, because you know what happens when you try to microanalyze when there are split-second decisions on whether to hit the guy or not.
Lapse of judgment, whatever. Move on.
The guy turned his body away when Niederbach was coming at him to hit him, and Niederbach caught him from behind. I'm not arguing the penalty. It was a hit from behind, deserving of game misconduct, but I'm not going to go out here and say Niederbach is a dirty player because of it, because these things happen so fast. But Simon Edvinsson, again, dominated 26 minutes on the ice and had a primary assist in that one. I mean, he is going to – I almost feel like, we kind of did do it. I was going to say we should do a player prediction for Simon Edvinsson at some point, but I think we really did do that earlier when we were like, these players
we
make
might
the team.
get to that down the road, honestly.
I mean, because he's –
we can mix that in. We can do like him, Berggren, Joe Valeno. We can do like one, where we look at kind of the kids and talk about best and worst case scenarios for them too. Because I'm very excited about Edvinsson, as we all are.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the final game, the Czech also played, but Jan Bednar did not get any points. The final game to talk about is Latvia versus Canada. Sebastian Cossa started that game. There's some speculation that that's the only game he's going to start as the other goaltender.
He had a crazy save.
He did. He had a crazy save. He let up 2 goals on 24 shots, I believe. Yeah, 24 shots against. I looked at both goals because I knew what people were going to say. Oh, he let in 2 goals on 24 shots against Latvia of all teams. People were going to be like, sounding the alarm, starting to worry. Again, I'm staying patient with Cossa. Both goals weren't soft goals. The power play goal he let up was through a screen, and the other goal was an absolute top shelf wrist rocket that was also through a partial screen. So I'm not overly concerned.
He also had a save almost from the blue line. So
yeah, and it was still above 900 save percentage. So again, I'm not. I'm pumping the brakes
Yeah.
on the worrying about
That's
Cossa. He'll
one
play
game
fine
in
in
the
that
World
game.
Juniors. Yeah.
Jonathan, top pair. Donovan Sebrango also got an assist on that one, a primary assist on Connor Bedard's goal. It was I'm not going to go out here and say that it was like some phenomenal assist that he had, but it was a smart play. It was just a safe, smart play. He got the puck close to his own blue line in the neutral zone. He looked across. He saw Connor Bedard, presumptive number 1 overall pick in this upcoming draft, cycling across the circle, hit him with the cross ice neutral zone pass. Connor Bedard did Connor Bedard's thing and scored a goal. It was a nice, safe pass by Donovan Sebrango, furthering to prove that Connor Bedard, or Donovan Sebrango rather, deserves to be on that top pair.
Absolutely.
And then with that being said, there's your analysis, guys, because it's preliminary rounds, trying to make too much of anything that's happening thus far
Yeah,
in
we'll
World
keep an eye
Juniors.
on it. We'll probably do a recap like when the whole thing's over, maybe. But I mean, during the tournament itself, we'll probably just give updates like that.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's get into our player predictions. We're already
Can we
getting
start
close.
with Suter?
That's what I was precisely going to say. The player
I think that's the easiest and quickest of the three. So I think it makes sense to get him out of the way with already half the first segment gone.
yeah, you know what? Lead it off then, buddy.
I think that best and worst case scenario for Suter are not too far off. I think we kind of know what we're getting with Pius Suter, and I love the move to move him down to the third line. I think that is a brilliant move, and I think it's going to help the depth a lot. And I think he's going to flourish. I think that he is going to be really, really effective in the third line. We saw last season, second line center was probably a little over his head a little bit with that role. And I'm really excited about what it means for this team offensively and what it just means for this team depth wise to have him down in the third line playing center there. And I think when you talk about best and worst case scenario, I think best case scenario is we have desperately as a team needed offense from the bottom six for years now, right? Like even going all the way back to like the bottoming out season, right? Where if you pretty much if you held Larkin and Mantha scoreless, you were going to shut the Red Wings out. Like that was literally it, right? And then last year we finally got off like the top line production when we had the Guelph line down in at the second line, and that really helped. You know, that's why they moved Bird down, and that really helped spread out production a little bit. But there has always still been a really big depth problem when it comes to offense. So I think more so than just a stat line or anything like that, best case scenario, I guess in a sense for all of these dudes, but especially Suter because he's the center, is just you actually have a line in your bottom six that is consistently scoring and is putting up productive time on the ice. Like that is the biggest thing for me. And I think worst case scenario is the opposite of that. Worst case scenario is you still have you know maybe he does a little worse than he did last year and he does it down in the third line, right? Like that would be tough to look at. And if you are then again next off season talking about who you want to filter in here to be you know 3C going forward, I think that it's pretty clear that more so than anything we just need production from somebody outside of the top two lines in the top six.
Yeah, so I mean, Pius Suter definitely has some things going for him. I agree with a lot of the things you said. He produced 36 points on the second line last season, which is a little low in terms of what you want out of a second line center. But he's a guy who's defensive forward. He's a PK specialist. His goals above replacement at defense was way better than it was at forward. 15 goals last season. Putting him down on the third line, I think, is that level of production for a third line center is perfect. He's a little undersized, 5'11", around 180 pounds, just kind of small for an NHL level center, which is another reason why to slide him down on the third line. I think he'll do a lot better. So I think best case scenario is just what you said. If you can maintain that level of production on the third line while also maintaining maybe hopefully the penalty kill gets better because we know it wasn't very good, but staying a solid penalty kill guy for the Detroit Red Wings, I think that's your best case scenario because you got to also realize you slide down in the lineup, you're also getting less minutes. So if you can maintain that amount of point production with a little bit less minutes, but also admittedly probably easier competition, then I think you're looking pretty good with Pius Suter. So really what I want out of him is just to maintain the production that he had on the third line, because that's really all you need out of a third liner. Worst case scenario, by the end of the season, you're looking around and he's only got one more year left on his contract. And I don't really necessarily see a situation where they re-sign him anyways. But worst case scenario, at the end of the season, you're looking around and you're saying, well, Joe Veleno and Michael Rasmussen probably need to get some minutes on that third line because Pius Suter's not cutting it. And maybe Pius Suter slides down to the fourth line or gets healthy. But you got options to replace him at center. So, I mean, worst case scenario is he just loses his role.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, and I guess that's a little bit wider of a range than I initially marketed, but I do think that there is very much a reality in which this third line actually becomes pretty productive, and we'll keep talking about why with the other two players for sure.
Absolutely, and also fun fact before we move on, Pius Suter is the only player, the third. Sorry, that's not correct. He is the third out of three players that played all 82 games this season. He joins Lucas Raymond and Mo Seider to play all 82. Yeah, which is crazy that the Red Wings' two biggest name rookies played all 82. But yeah, Pius Suter played all 82, one of just three players to do so. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty and I are going to continue our player predictions here on this Friday episode. Let's do the most polarizing guy. Is that all right with you? Do a little bit of Filip Zadina.
You want to do it? Okay, I was wondering if you wanted to save him for last or if you wanted to.
The reason why I want to do him now is because now we can allocate the most amount of time to him.
Sure, fair enough.
Just to set the table, Filip Zadina this last season had 10 goals and 14 assists for 24 points. He played in 74 games and had a total time on the ice of 1,049 minutes. Not the level of production we were hoping from the 6th overall pick. And I feel like we've been saying that year after year after year. But also, to keep in mind, this was his first full 82-game season with the Red Wings. We saw the flashes there with Filip Zadina, but it never felt like it was consistent, leading to at times him even being healthy scratched, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep.
So there's a lot of want out of this guy. The Red Wings need better production out of this guy in particular, because he is marketed as a scoring threat. I think the potential is still there, but he has got to show the capability. What is the ceiling, the best case scenario, and what is the worst case scenario for Filip Zadina?
I think the worst is way easier. So yes. because the worst is pretty straightforward, right? Like best, everybody is gonna have a different opinion on what the true ceiling for Filip Zadina is. But worst case, we can all agree on, and we don't agree on much. Most sports fans don't. But I think the worst case scenario for him is another single digit scoring season. I mean, like he's gonna play 82, and so we're predicting as if he's gonna play 82, I should say. And so just with that, you would hope, what do you have, 10 and 74 last year?
Yeah, 10 and 74.
I mean, you would hope that he would. Okay, so my worst case scenario for Filip Zadina is that his goal total is around like 10 to 12 again. And at the end of this season, he takes no strides forward whatsoever. And he is still the player that he is. And more people jump ship from the bandwagon. And we're talking about trading him at the trade deadline. We're talking about trading him throughout the second half of the season when the offseason comes around. And He's getting healthy again. And that's unfortunately very real because I am very much a you have to prove me otherwise type of person. And haven't had too much of that in 160 games of Filip Zadina. So I know that just his name alone draws in a ton of eyes and a ton of ears and really boosts a lot of engagements for a lot of content creators. But I, I I don't know. Like I lean more on the lower side of Zadina at this point. And again, I still think there is a high ceiling, and we'll talk about that. And I don't think he's gonna put up 10 goals in 82 games this year. Again, we're just talking about like worst case scenario. Um, but if I had to stand on one side of the 50 or the other, I'm gonna stand on the bottom side of the 50 with Zadina.
Which I think this might be the first player we've deferred more to the worst case than the best case scenario.
Yeah,
And
it is for me for sure.
as much as we like to, like, as much as we are trying to stay optimistic about Filip Zadina and the fact that he's only 20, he's only 22 years old. And again, I keep reiterating that. I reiterated it all last season. That was his first 82 game season, at least, full season lengthwise. He didn't play all 82. And he is not have a contract yet. He's still an RFA unsigned. I'm pretty confident he will get signed because
we got
why wouldn't he
like
be? But
ARB stuff is coming up and everything.
Well, he's not. He can't.
No, I know. I'm just saying like that's when a lot of RFAs get signed.
Yeah, so it's really hard to predict, but he has not inspired a lot of confidence in Red Wings fans, and I can understand why he hasn't inspired a lot of confidence. I mean, this is a guy you drafted at 6th overall in 2018, and he was supposed to fill the back of the net. He promised he was going to fill the back of the net, and he has not done so. His shooting percentage was 6% this last year, which is a good 6% below the league average, if I'm recalling correctly. So,
do you want to know what his shot percentages by year?
What?
His 9 games of his first stint in the show, it was 5.6, but that's 9 games. 19, 20, and 28 games, it was 13.3% when he had 8 goals he had 8 goals in 28 games. Then in 2021 in 50 games, it was 6.2%, and then this year it was 6.5%.
Yeah, so it just seems like
his career shot percentage is 7.6%.
I don't know what the issue is. I don't know if it's hockey IQ. That's been talked about a lot, that he just doesn't think the game fast enough. And that's a problem a lot of people had. Maybe it's why he slipped in the draft in 2018, because he was supposed to be, some mocks had him as high as number 2 overall. But it's just, it hasn't come together for him yet. And you just deferred to his age and hope that he still pieces it together. I mean, worst case scenario, you're looking at the end of the season and it's a Dominic Kubalik situation. Dominic Kubalik did not receive a qualifying offer from the Chicago Blackhawks, and he had a better season production-wise than Filip Zadina. So you're looking at a situation where at the end of this season, it's the same thing. You decide that he's a bust.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think there's a relatively decent. I don't want to say this is gonna happen. I don't want to make this sound like the odds are favored for this to occur, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for him to really struggle in the first half of the season and then to just try and offload him at the trade deadline and see if somebody else will take him for a future asset. A team that might still believe in him. I don't think, if he's limping into February with 6 goals, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility at all.
Well, and that's the thing is, so he's not defensively reliable hardly. And then on top of that, now his defense has gotten better. I will say that, because I'm trying to be fair.
He made a couple of really nice plays defensively last year.
His defense has gotten better. And that was something 2 years ago, Jeff Blashill was emphasizing, like, the scoring will come. We're working on his defense right now. And it has gotten better, but it's still not the name of his game. The name of the game is his goal production, and that has not been there. But I keep deferring to his age. I just want to remain as optimistic as possible, despite this nasty gut feeling that I have. Trying to look at his best case scenario, Scotty, and I'm going to try.
Well, that's the thing. Like everybody's gonna argue about this till they're blue in the face. Like everybody's got a different opinion of what his ceiling is.
His ceiling when he was drafted was top line 40 goal scoring
Yep.
David Pastrnak type player. That
Oh,
was the
yeah.
type of player that Red Wings fans wanted out of Filip Zadina. I don't know. I don't even honestly. I'm going to be honest. I think that has been dampened for me. I think his ceiling now is probably second line winger, maybe max 20, 25 goal scorer. And I hope I'm wrong because I'm trying to remain optimistic because, again, of that the age. But just given what we have in the sample size we have, not inspiring a lot of confidence. Best case scenario for Filip Zadina, I think he thrives on the third line, maybe finds his way in the second line because we know he has some chemistry with Jacob Vrana. They feed off each other. He gets in that 20, 25 goal range. It's a huge step forward for him in his production. He starts gaining that confidence, and it's a snowball effect from there. But that's getting into, bigger picture type stuff. For this season, if he can score somewhere between 20 and 25 goals, it'll be a huge, massive step forward for Filip Zadina. And I think that is what you can realistically hope for as a best case scenario, is that the goal scoring finally begins to come. Because, an addendum before I finish, he also was, relative to his teammates, a positive expected goals for percentage, which is very strange given how every other metric he has does not speak very highly of him.
So there was a lot of people that pointed out like his neutral zone presence is like good. Like it's like it's good. Like good. His neutral zone, whether it's offensive or defensive, like in the neutral zone, he's been effective. And I know, we were told this dude was going to score 40, and now we're talking, 4 years later, we're talking about how good he is in the neutral zone. Like, I understand that's not exactly what you want to hear, but like there are aspects of his game that are effective and are solid. And it's just, he's never going to be a top end productive player at the NHL level if he's not going to be able to get the goal scoring figured out. And so I agree with you. I think my best case scenario for him would be in that like low mid 20 goal total. And I think if I don't think either of our best or worst case scenario is going to be what happens with Zadina this year. But if I had to pick one, I'm leaning toward the bottom. And I would love nothing more that like you said, to be proven wrong. I would much rather be wrong about stuff and have it benefit the Detroit Red Wings than be right about stuff that doesn't benefit the Detroit Red Wings. So I am obviously rooting for the kid, and I hope he figures it out. But like you said, there's not a lot that we've seen in 160 games at the NHL level to inject a bunch of confidence into us.
Precisely. So just to wrap it up before moving on to Dominik Kubalik, again, my best case scenario is 20, 25 goals, second pair winger. Worst case scenario is all the way down to calling it a spade. He will not work out at the NHL level. So let's just move right into Dominik Kubalik then. He was a signing by Steve Yzerman this past offseason. He signed him to a 2-year, $2.5 million per season contract from the Chicago Blackhawks, 2 seasons removed from a 30-goal Calder finalist season, but his production has since taken a huge step back. This past season with the Chicago Blackhawks, he put up 15 goals and 17 assists for 32 points. He had a .932 shooting percentage. Scotty, this one's another tough one. It kind of is a Filip Zadina-esque situation where, I mean, at least Dominik Kubalik had one season of stellar production, but a guy who has a high ceiling but hasn't necessarily been able to replicate those numbers. What are we expecting out of this winger?
Yeah, I think I want to start with best case scenario for him, because I think that like I said, this is maybe my favorite signing of the offseason. And that's not a guarantee that he is going to be some wildly productive player or that he's going to be on the team for more than a year or two. But I think that the possibilities that can come from him are endless. I mean, this is a guy who you can put on the power play because he's not afraid to shoot the puck. And that's awesome because we, desperately need something like that. offensively in general, nonetheless on the power play. And I think best case scenario is he gets back into that mid to high 20 goal total. That, I mean, what, he had 30 goals as a rookie, right? So
Yeah.
I think best case scenario is he gets back into that territory. He lights it up. He's wildly effective on the power play, right? He's playing special teams and he's playing full strength. And if injuries happen ahead of him, he's one of the first guys that's looked at to move up to the second line. I think that's best case scenario. And again, I not saying that the ceiling will hit, but I would lean on the side that he's going to be a pretty effective player for the Wings this year. I really like this move a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I lean on the side that 30-goal season was closer to an anomaly for him, and that
I agree with
15
that.
goals is probably more what he's capable of. I think his best case scenario is around 20 goals. If he can be between 18 and 22 goals,
Sure.
that'd be great. He is a shoot first winger who scores a lot on those shots he takes. But outside of that, the micro analytics show that he's not very efficient at zone pressure, at offense or defense. He's just very skilled at zone entry, and just his shot percentage, only at 932 percentage, but the shots he takes tend to go in a lot of cases. So I think a best case scenario for him is, again, around that 18 to 22 goal range. Worst case scenario is he is what we think he might be, and what Steve Yzerman, took a flyer on, is third line guy between 10 and 15 goals. He's here for 2 years. See ya. I mean,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of risk involved here, so I'm not going to be too devastated if he ends up not working out. But considering the fact that he did have that 30-goal season with the Chicago Blackhawks, you see the potential there that he could light it up. But you also got to remember, who he was playing with in that season. Alex DeBrincat, Patrick Kane, guys like that could hugely impact the amount of goals he scores. And that kind of talent isn't on this Detroit Red Wings team as of yet, is not proven at least. So we'll see where he ends up. But if he ends up between 18 and 22 goals, I'll imagine that is a success for him.
For sure. Yeah. And like you said, looking at the worst case is pretty straightforward. I think it's, like borderline doesn't finish out his contract or just stays here for depth purposes and isn't effective on the power play and doesn't stick there and probably gets healthy by the end of the season or is playing, down in the fourth line. I think that's a pretty easy worst case scenario to pinpoint. But I think the possibilities with him are endless, man. I really do. I think that this is a perfect depth signing because he checks a lot of boxes, as we talked about when we did sign him. So I'm really, really excited for Kubalik.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see, Scotty, any final thoughts, man? You got anything you got to get off your chest?
Alavila's gone.
He is.
I'm so happy about it. How do you feel about light blue Gatorade?
Not as good as dark blue. Cool blue is the best flavor. I'm not a big Glacier Freeze fan.
You're a weirdo, but that's fine.
Okay. I mean, you're not wrong.
That was my how do you feel about it Friday right there.
All right. Shoot. No, I feel like I am pressured to also reciprocate.
No, you're good, man. I've asked you too. You can ask me zero. It's fine.
How do you feel about my audio quality today? Any weird pops?
No, it was fantastic.
Clear? Okay, cool. I've been having this weird issue. I think I discovered the issue. I told you before the show, but for the people, obviously, they all know the weird popping noises my mic's been making. That's usually a sign that a wire is either not connected all the way or going bad. I think I figured out what wire it was. And of course, it was an Amazon Basics wire. So that should teach you a lesson to not be cheap when it comes to your own equipment. So the wire I have now is of higher quality. And so far, not only has it eliminated the popping sound, but it has eliminated the white noise issue that I have had with this mixer since the day I got it. So I'm hoping that this is it. That we're good to go. And it's just to the moon from here on out.
As the kids say.
As the kids would say.
To the moon.
Thanks for making Locked On Red Wings your first listen every single day. Make your second listen Locked On NHL. Locked On NHL, your Locked On experts. Thank you very much. Give you your daily 30-minute podcast on all things NHL all year long. Stay up to date on everything in the hockey world. Locked On NHL, your daily 30-minute NHL podcast. Scotty.
Good job.
Thanks. I just slammed my phone on the desk to get your attention. Guess what?
Chicken butt.
No.
Oh.
Weeball, baby!